Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you've been here before, if you have not, my name is Daniel Williams, and this is the Cedar Ridge Chronicles. I do a little bit of taxidermy, a little bit of hunting, a little bit of fishing, a little bit of everything, just whatever I feel like that day. But today, I'm going to talk about ear liners. The last couple of months, I've answered several questions about ear liners, and I guess I just kind of took for granted the simplicity of using an ear liner. And that's not everybody's method, but since I've always just kind of done it, I never really thought about the fact that there's a lot of different kinds, different sizes, and when to use what. And I've never answered that question before, I don't reckon. Maybe I have in some of my how to mount a deer videos, but I've never made a specific video on these. So let's get into it. I've got this hide tan. About to mount this deer up. It's a beautiful, beautiful deer. Look how blonde. That is really, really a pretty cape. But on this deer, I was going to show y'all how I figure out what ear liner I'm going to use. I've got three. I keep three sizes all the time at my house. I keep large, smalls, and mediums. I would say that probably, 85%, 90% of the deer that I mount are on mediums. There's several different brands of ear liners that I like. McKenzie. This is a McKenzie large. The McKenzie are very flexible. They're very easy to trim. And I do like the anatomy. They fit real well. The one thing that I don't like too much about the McKenzie is how far they curve back on the tips. Let me grab this other one right here. You can see the tips of those ears, just how much that comes back right there. And just not my personal preference. I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong. Every deer is a little bit different. I just personally don't like that look too much, especially when you've got ears pinned back. It's got a little bit of a hook to it. You know, most people are never going to notice that, but just as a taxidermist, that's just one of my little pet peeves. The mediums that I've got here right now are Gary Cochran's. I like these ear liners a pretty good bit. The anatomy is good on them. One thing I dislike about these is the length of the cartilage replacement here. Whereas you see on these McKenzies, even though this is a large and this is a medium, where that ear ends right there, you can see how much longer this one is than the McKenzie. And what you run into is where this hits the form, it's going to stick out a little bit further than what I'm going to want it, so I have to cut the form out a little bit, which is, a little bit of an inconvenience, but not a deal breaker. These are still good ear liners. They're much stiffer than McKenzie's. You can still trim them with a pair of scissors, but they slide in and out good. And they got a little bit of a rougher texture. McKenzie's a little bit smoother. If you use a McKenzie, you may want to rough it up just a little bit, whereas these have got almost a pre-rough texture to them. Never had glue stick into these. Or never had a problem with glue sticking to these. My bad. The smalls that I've got are Champion's Choice. And I haven't been using these very long, but these have pretty quickly become my favorite. I like the anatomy. I like the shape. I like the length of the cartilage. And I like the end of that ear where it comes to a nice sharp point, but it doesn't cut back too much. Something else too with ear liners, they've got different depth cups in them. Some ear liners are cupped more than others. The Gary Cochran's they seem to have more of a deep cup, especially right up in this top edge, than some of them do. And it's not a bad look. It's just you got to take that into consideration when you're choosing what size ear liners you want. Because even though this is a medium, on a deer with large ears, a medium to large size, you're still going to need this rather than a large ear liner. Because once you get into that large ear liner, what you're looking at is surface area. So that ear skin, where it lays on here, that distance is not here to here. It's from here all the way around to here. So if that ear is too small, for instance, it's going to drum really bad. As it dries, it's going to just flatten out across that. And this gap, like this ear liner here, you can see that ear liner is significantly bigger in length and in width. But when you look at the cup, this one is significantly shallower. So if you were to take this and spread this out, which you can't hardly without breaking it, it probably wouldn't measure just a whole lot different than this one. Then when you're measuring this distance right up against that plastic of that ear liner. So that's something that's gonna make a little bit of difference. You got to take into consideration. That's why I suggest having several different ones of several different sizes. Ear liners are relatively cheap. I think most of these things are between $8 and $15 a pair, depending on which ones you buy. And it's not that big a deal to just have several of each size, and not even a real bad deal to have several of each brand of each size, because every deer is different. And every deer's ears are going to be shaped different. So the best thing that you can do is test fit them. All of these you can see are pink. They're different shades of pink. Those are very different when you look at each one of them. The Champion's Choice, I think, is my favorite because it is a little bit darker. And in the skin of a deer's ears, some of these do not want to show through very much. Let's go ahead and slide one of these in here and we'll see if it does show through at all. If not, I'm going to show you some of these other deer too, where you can really see the difference. Now, some of these you can see where this skin right here, get you a little closer, has got a little bit of a coloration to it. It's got some brown and stuff in it. Some of these things are just bleach white, gorgeous in the ears. Other ones are not. And those that are not, you're going to have to do a little bit of airbrush work stuff to them anyway, just to make them look pretty. I like to add a little bit of white to mine, even if you can see the pink through very well. But just having a pink ear liner is not really going to solve never having to paint your inner ear again, unless you just get lucky and have perfect ears on every deer you ever mount, which isn't going to happen unless you do one and it has perfect ears. So just be ready to have to paint a little bit regardless. Let's slip this in here. This is the medium. This deer's ear, I'm going to say, is sort of a large to medium. And these Gary Cochrans with this deep cup, you can see just how deep. See, my fingers fit all the way down in that thing. Just how deep that ear is. But I'd say that ear, even dry with no hide paste on it at all, it fits perfect on there. The skin is touching the plastic. The inner ear is touching the ear liner. I'm not having to press it down into it. It just lays against it. That's what you want. If you have to press that down and it's wanting to pop back up, your ear liner is too big. The ear will shrink a little bit into a little bit smaller ear liner. So always err to the smaller of the sizes. If you're afraid that you're going to have a little bit of drumming. Let me show y'all, this is the small on that same ear. Kind of show y'all the difference that you're looking at when you know that you've got one in that doesn't quite fit correctly. This small right here, of course, the skin is going to go all the way down in it. It's going to fit just fine. The skin's going to lay up against it. But here's where you run into your problem. Right there, where the bottom of that ear, it opens up all the way down to the bottom of that ear butt. It's hanging out the bottom of the ear liner. It won't fit up in there without cramming it up in there and just piling it up in a pile. I mean, you could make it work if this was your deer and you only had one set of ear liners. You can cram all that skin down in there and just glue it, and it will be fine. But that's in my opinion, that's going to be your indicator of whether or not your ear liner is too small. Now, let's cram this large in here. And let's see what it looks like if it's too big. Which this large is a little bit shallower. So this ear may actually fit on the Mackenzie. All right. So you can see that ear fits on there too. The skin is touching up here. The problem that we're running into with this one is when you get down to the inner ear, when you press down here, it comes loose from the other side. Press down here and it comes loose from the top. It's not wanting to stay up against that ear liner. And even though they're very close to the same size, and all three of these ears, you can stick all three of these ear liners in here, mount that deer, and the customer's going to be happy about it. Your client would never know the difference in the size of his deer's ears. Aside from the fact that you use different ear liners in it, and you told them about it. If you didn't tell them, they would never know. But with these mediums, that's the size that we're going to go with. And you have to kind of remember too, this hide, whenever you have caped this out, tanned it, remove the cartilage, once it's done stretching, this ear is already bigger slightly than it was naturally. And it's going to shrink, and it's going to basically get back to its original size. It will actually shrink back smaller than its original size if you did not have an ear liner. It'll just wrinkle up and turn into a knot. But a medium in this ear is going to get that deer right back to where he was supposed to be when he was still on the hoof. Now, let's go over here and let's look at these other bucks that have got the ear liners in them that have already dried. I've got, let me see here, I've got one over here on the end. This right here is the Mackenzie's. And you can see just how dark that skin is on the inside of that ear. Both of these are the same way. This one over here is almost black. It's real rough. The deer had a lot of ticks on them, a lot of scarring. And scars just don't do real well. When you tan them, they just don't look nice and white. They're not real pretty. But those are those light pink Mackenzie ear liners, and you can't even tell it. So that's one of those deer you're going to have to paint. I like to go with white, a little bit of pink, then back with a little bit of white. And they'll look beautiful once they're done. But now we go on over here to this, like this deer, for instance. This deer are Gary Cochran's. You can see a little bit of the pink through there, right there. But it's still not real dark, not real bright, because this deer has got a little bit of coloration on his inner ear, not just tons. But then you look at this buck, and that sucker looks like he's been airbrushed pink. And then just popped right through, which this is a younger deer. He had very, very pretty skin, very nice, white, thin skin in his ears, and that showed through really well. Now, my personal preference, I don't like that much pink. So what I will do, I'll go around the edges and lightly airbrush a little bit of white and just blend that inner ear into that whiter outer ear. There again, personal preference. However you'd like to do your deer, you can make that decision, make that call. But that'll give you a little bit of an idea as to what these look like. Those that are really pink in that deer, those are Gary Cochran mediums also. So the deer that I showed you next to it, that's just the difference in how much it shows through on different bucks. There's really no way to predict it. I shave all of these down as thin as I can get them. I even shave the inner ear on these and get them down thin. But every buck's just different. So the best thing to do is have several ear liners. At least keep one of each size, because test fitting them is I think as important as the way you measure to fit the antlers on the deer. Your ears, eyes, and the antler set is going to be the quality of your mount. I think that's 99% of what makes a mount look good, even if the client doesn't realize what they're looking at. And somebody looks at a deer and says, I just don't know what's wrong with that mount, but there's something about it that I don't like. It's usually eyes, ears, or the angle or the distance that you've set the rack on top of the head based on where it should be. And having extra ear liners will fix that problem, at least with the ears. That will give you anatomy. It'll give you better drying. You should never have any drumming in your ears. I mean, they drum easier than the rest of the deer, I'll say that, but I don't have any problems with ears drumming. The key is to test fit, make sure that skin fits comfortably even without hide paste. I used Pro 1 hide paste. I've never had any other hide paste that works as good as that, especially in ears. And use very little glue. When you put your hide paste in that ear, if you put too much paste in there, it's going to take so long for the paste to dry that your skin's going to dry out. And it's going to shrink, and it's going to pull away before that glue has kicked, and the glue's still going to be wet, and it's going to end up drying on the back side of that skin, and you're going to have air between the skin and the ear liner. So when you put that paste on those ear liners, use very, very little. I mean, very little, and slide your ear liner in rub that skin around to make sure it gets good contact on all the skin, and then just rub it into place. Bag the head. Once you get done mounting the deer, bag the head. Keep it bagged overnight. The next day, take it off for at least a few hours, let it breathe, rebag it for several days. And check those ears every day when you come into your shop and you're looking at your deer. Take the bag off, make sure that you run your fingers down those ear liners, make sure there's no air pockets. Every once in a while, if you've got a little pinhole or if you've cut a little spot in the ear, if it's got a cut in it or hole in it, it can draw in air as it's drying, and it will cause little air pockets, little air bubbles in there. So make sure that you keep all of that mashed out. Any places where the hide paste is too thick, keep that mashed down, keep everything good and smooth. And when that glue gets ready to kick, even with it bagged, it'll keep some moisture in the skin, and that glue will continue to harden. And after it kicks and grabs that skin, I mean, it's just there. You don't have to worry about it drumming. You don't have to worry about it again. So I hope this helps, guys. Thank y'all so much for watching. Appreciate the support. Appreciate all the subscribers. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Don't cost you a thing. And y'all can just watch more of this totally awesome content with me and make fun of me if you want to. But anyway, guys, God bless y'all. We'll see y'all in the next video.